just give me that first trip into the Howard Stern show.
It was unbelievable. I remember it was July 18, 2001. I still remember that date like it's someone's birthday or a death date. They were only on 3 days a week, and they got A-listers coming in now. They never used to get Lady Gaga, Madonna, and Bradley Cooper and stuff like that. They had dirtbags like us. You go, lady. I got mail. I know, because you can still do the voice. I go, yeah, it's a piece. Yeah, it's not, I didn't have to do anything different.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Massa's Restaurants in St. Louis, 5 locations. STLMassas.com is their website. You can find out all their specials there. They got pasta, they got pizza. They're the title sponsor. You know about them. And I know my next guest must enjoy a good Italian pizza or a meatball sub. Jim Florentine. I believe you're Italian, right?
Yeah, Italian and Irish.
So, how much Italian? Florentine sounds like an Italian name, I thought. Maybe I was stupid.
Like 40%, 40-40. I haven't done the whatever you do, 23andMe or whatever the hell it is.
Well, that is. No, I don't.
You find out your background.
Oh.
You do the DNA test.
I'll pass. It's probably all,
whatever.
Yeah, it's a lot of mix.
Yeah.
Jim, I think everybody is awful. And I know that has sort of been your tagline. You wrote a book called that, and it got a lot of people to read. And I know you were basically just kind of having observations like this, but the book came out. You started a podcast. You're working with Barstool Sports. Just talk about kind of what you've been doing. I think it's about 2 years since we talked, but I think the book was just coming out at that point. So everybody is awful is sort of your tagline. It's nice. It's perfect because mine is I hate people. Probably not the best thing to say, but mine is I hate people. Tell me a little bit about how things are going with Barstool Sports, podcasting, and then the book.
Yeah, the book is basically based off of my podcast. So my podcast is basically people send me stuff on social media or articles or whatever like that. It's just people doing awful things, and I just make fun of it. I've been doing it for like 9 years now, and I just moved over to Barstool Sports in January, and they've been great. I do 2 podcasts a week, Monday and Thursday, let you do whatever you want over there. They're great. It's a great company to work for.
You get to see David Portnoy a lot and get to curse.
Yeah, when I go in the studio, I haven't been to the studio since March, everything. So I'm doing it from home. But yeah, whenever I would go in there on Tuesdays or whatever, I always see him. He's a good dude. I like him.
I was going to say, it's going to be hard for him to sort of continue his act because it seemed like everybody was okay. We hit COVID, we had a few other speed bumps, and now it's really, I don't know what we can talk about right now, Jim.
Dave doesn't care. Remember, they were trying to do something with him, an old video a few weeks ago, and he goes, "I don't care. You don't cancel me. I cancel you." It's so funny. He doesn't care.
He did come through here.
The media just portrays this thing out there that like everybody is offended, the whole world. And it's really not like that. Like if you come to a comedy club, nobody's walking out. It hasn't been going, for the last 10 years, people aren't walking out because they're offended. If they're offended by stuff, they just don't come to the club. So a lot of that. So with Barstool, everyone thinks, how could they get away with this? Because people are always offended. They're not. They got a huge audience. Their podcast platform is huge. Everything about the company is huge. And so what if a few people get offended? It's better publicity for the company. More people flock to that. Like when I find out, I'm like, oh, you know what? I heard of Barstool like 5 years ago and they're getting in trouble. Like, I got to check this out. Because I'm like, good, I want to listen to people get in trouble. And there's a lot of people like that.
Well, I know he came through here, and I have a very open mind on everything, and I think he crushed the pizza that we have here, which is everyone comes to St. Louis, and they hate the thin crust pizza, and it's fine. I don't care. But he crushed it, and it just made so many St. Louisans mad, and I was like, good. Everybody needs to get a little sense of humor. Young Page Views is from here. I don't know if you know him, but he's a huge hockey fan. He was enjoying the Stanley Cup run last year. Right. So, yeah, I think it's fun. I like people that stir it up a little bit, and then I also love when people react like it's the worst thing they've ever seen. So good for him.
Does it really matter if he didn't like the thin crust pizza? It's like people really going to take that personally? Who cares? Like in New Jersey, like Taylor ham, and egg and cheese, like that's a breakfast sandwich here that you're supposed to eat in New Jersey. And if someone made fun of it, it tastes awful, by the way. And I don't know anyone in New Jersey, and I live here, that eats it. But I guess when people come in, they have to try it. And if they made fun of it, I'm like, yeah, I know, it's terrible. Even if I liked it, I'm like, who cares?
You did a podcast recently about awful 80s songs, and I was pissed off at you. I love Kajagoogoo. I don't know why there's a problem with Too Shy being out there.
I can't like that song. There's no way. Unless you're transitioning right now. You can't.
Have you ever heard the Never Ending Story, also sung by this? I think it was named Lamal. Never Ending Story.
Yeah.
I had not heard that since I was a kid, and it made me laugh. Like, this is a parody song. It was like number 5 in the top 40 back then. And I was a kid. I guess as a kid, you just sort of don't care about those things, but you go back and listen, and there's a part where he goes, oh, it's just there's no way there's other people singing this out loud except if you're in a different club, I guess. But
no, it's just like that. Like a lot of that '80s music just hasn't stood the test of time. Like you listen to it now, it's like it's terrible. You know, like the '70s music, like the Stones, the Bob Seger, and Leonard Skinner, that classic stuff. That Billy Joel, Elton John, that still stands. That still stands up. But that '80s synthesizer, drum machine, just terrible. Most of it. Terrible.
I think it still stands. It's right up there with Sympathy for the Devil, I swear.
Well, you know, my whole thing is like when they play those songs in a store, like you got, Kajagoogoo cranked into CBS. I'm just trying to pick up some shit here. I don't need to hear this song. You know, they just think like it's safe music to play. Like nobody wants to hear that. Nobody goes into a store to hear, Howard Jones, Things Can Only Get Better. Like, I'm going to stay 5 minutes longer. I love this song.
Need an Everlasting Love by Howard Jones. So, yeah, Jim was talking about that on his podcast, Everybody is Awful. And then, again, you can go to Apple. I guess you can get it everywhere, barstoolsports.com. But I'm always interested. I know that we talked about Howard Stern a little bit last time, and I'm always interested just how that relationship went with you when you got there. What was it like the first time you got called in there? I don't feel like you get real worked up or for what I can tell, but it had to be kind of cool. How did that happen? Does Gary call you? Just give me that first trip into the Howard Stern show, because that does, when a stand-up comedian walks in there, they can walk out and then start selling out shows for 6 months, a year, 5 years.
It was unbelievable. I remember it was July 18, 2001. I still remember that date like it's someone's birthday or a death date. No, I was always a big fan. Like I worked construction. I was a landscaper. So I always, especially I lived in New Jersey, so he was big in New York. So that's all I did was listen to Howard Stern constantly. So I was a huge fan of the show. I started doing comedy and I put out these prank call CDs and I mailed it into the show and they started playing it on the air. And, they're like, oh, we got to have this guy in. He's really funny. And then they go, oh, okay, you're booked. You're going to sit in for a whole day on this day in July. And, if you know the show, you know when they, jump in and jump out. I'm like, all right, great. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I remember being in the green room like 10 to 6. The show starts at 6 a.m. And I'm just standing there. And I see Howard walk by. I see Robin. I see Fred. I see everybody. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm here. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I've been fans of these people forever. I go, all right, I can't mess it up. I go, I got one shot. I go, so just pretend like they're just your friends. I go, the show, so just bust balls. That's the show. I remember like the first 3 minutes, Howard's like, hey, nice to meet you, whatever. Jim's going to sit in the show. And he's right in there telling a story about him and Beth, his wife, on the beach. And they found like a bird or something like that, and they saved the bird, and he had a tear in his eye. And I go, Howard, I go, you should really check your pants for penis. And he just, I knew it to throw it out, and he just lost it. And I was like, God, I got my first laugh. That was like 5 minutes into the show.
So this is obviously Jackie had just left, and this is that point where they were sort of auditioning for that chair. Were you auditioning, or were you just sitting in? Because we know Artie gets it at the end of the year, but I know Craig Gass was in there, Ron Zimmerman, Fitzsimmons, I believe. They just kind of brought in a bunch of guys. I don't know if they were. Did you feel like you were auditioning, or was it just, hey, just sit in? And how did they explain it to you?
No, it wasn't an audition. They just said, look, we're going to have different guys, a rotating guest to sit in. We're going to rotate you guys. We're going to pick like 8 or 10 guys. And I'm like, okay, so we didn't even know it was an audition. But I guess at some point they go, hey, we like Artie's the best for this job, so let's hire him. Which is fine. I mean, he was great for the job. I mean, I wasn't jealous or anything like when he got the job. Like, okay, that's fine. I was still going on the show all the time, so it didn't really make a difference.
He was so good on there, especially early on. I just remember he would have things that he would say that Howard didn't even catch, but they were so funny to me. And it added. There's always that little arc of the show, and I started listening way back in the early '90s. So it was Jackie and that group with Billy West, and then it changed over to basically Artie, Stuttering John, and KC. And I felt like I don't know, for some reason I felt like that was the prime. I know that a lot of older fans be like, oh no, the Jackie years. I guess there's these people that kind of compare and contrast. Do you have a favorite era of those shows?
I like the Jackie shows, Jackie, Billy West. I listen to those on YouTube. It's unbelievable the things they were saying and what they were getting away with. And I liked how they danced around the dirty language, the cursing and stuff like that, and made up words and danced around it, and how it was just out of control then. The Artie years were great. They were different. You know, Artie was more of like a sidekick. Yeah. Talking, Jackie wasn't, but those years were great too with the art. But, Howard was also going through a lot with the FCC at the time. When I went on the show, 2001, he left for Sirius 2006. The FCC was on his case. Remember the Janet Jackson thing, and then his Clear Channel took him off like 10 stations because he wouldn't listen to their new rules and all that stuff. So he was going through a lot of crap where he was handcuffed. So when he got to Sirius, he just let loose again too. But look, all those years were great. But I like the Jackie years better for some reason. I watch the old Channel 9 shows on YouTube, which are great.
You're just making me think about it though, and all you'd have to hear was even Fred just playing a hee, and that would make me laugh for just on something stupid.
Jackie's laugh after all those terrible stories and stuff. And then whenever they would attack, Howard was so vicious when he would attack Gary or Jackie or Fred during those fights, or Stuttering John. In the 90s, it was brutal. I love listening to that. It's just a beatdown.
Yeah, it was almost painful, but still glad that you weren't being part of it.
I used to tell Gary to talk after me. I will. So degrading.
Yeah, Gary's been there forever, just taking it. I guess it's made, built him a few houses, and that I love when he had the seating thing built in his house, and they just made fun of that for weeks.
Oh yeah, with the stools. Why would you sit on the stool?
Yeah, right. He had to sit in the back where all the other people came in the comfy chairs.
Yeah, it's like who wants to sit in a stool to watch the Super Bowl? It's stupid.
Would you get nervous though, kind of going in there knowing that, hey, a lot of people are going to be listening? This is going to be. Would it, or did you just sort of wing it and kind of knew you were funny, you knew what you were doing?
Because you knew. It was like at his prime, it was like, I don't know. They said 15 to 20 million people listening. Even in the early 2000s. So it was like it was huge, and it's just a response you got. And then you'd always hear back. You tell a story, and then you'd hear from everybody from your past. Like, you couldn't believe how many people listen to that show. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's just funny listening, think about those other memories of just stuff we were talking about. And it's weird. I know, as Gary, that they've evolved. Thoughts on just kind of how it's going? Because I don't think they don't really bring in comedians anymore, right? You haven't been in a long time. And has it been?
No, they do more like they're only on 3 days a week, and they got A-listers coming in now. They never used to get Lady Gaga and Madonna and Bradley Cooper and stuff like that. They had dirtbags like us. So the show's changed. It's fine. I still do the wrap-up show like twice a year. We're all friends. I still talk to all those guys. I see them because I work at Sirius. I work in the Hard Rock Channel, Ozzy's Boneyard. I do a show over there. So I'm always up there doing different shows. So it's all good. Hey, man, the way I look at Howard is like he discovers you, he launches you, and then you're on your own. He gives you that moment. Hey, make it work. I give you all this exposure, and then I'm going to move on from you, and I'm going to bring other people in. That's the way I always looked at it. So I've never had any regrets or be mad at him that I don't go on the show anymore. I'm like, the guy gave me a huge break. I'll always be grateful.
Yeah, and like I said, I named those guys off, Craig Gass and Greg Fitzsimmons. I didn't really know those guys at that point. Of course, you guys have all done different things since, but you're right. You go on there twice, and people are going to know who you are. So,
that was awesome.
Yeah, no, those were fun years. I don't know if you talked to Artie. I was just curious if you've heard from him or how's he doing?
We don't. Nobody knows. He's MIA, and who knows? He'll pop up and they'll start doing 19 different podcasts.
All right. So what's on that? Was it a Star Wars Cup? I'm sorry. I always get a little
no, wrestling. My kid's into wrestling.
Oh, the SmackDown. Okay, I see. Yeah,
no Star Wars for me. I've never seen 1 second of that.
So how do you still get like residuals for terrorizing telemarketers? Do people still remember that? That was a long time ago, and it was a different time. Now you have caller ID and YouTube. Back then it was, as a kid, I would do that, but I never really thought of, let's record them and put them on CD. Do you still see some money for that? And do people still remember way back in that stuff?
Yeah. Because now, Yeah, I mean, they're still on serious. They get played a lot, the prank calls. People rediscover them now through YouTube. You know, for a while, no one was even talking about it. About 5 years ago, they really kicked in again. A whole younger generation started listening to calls on YouTube or on satellite radio on the comedy channels. So, yeah, people still go crazy over them. Yeah. My kid was just listening. He's 10. He's like, Dad, play me this one. I never heard. I want to hear them all. Like, he's obsessed with them now.
I forgot, too. You did weird things like Upper Deckers. But yeah. I think the best one... Is that weird? Well, maybe. I don't know. It depends on who you are. But I guess the one now that I'm thinking, this is just me remembering, the guy who comes over with the salad, and you just keep telling, no, I'll take more pepper. Was that you?
That was pepper on my chicken for 35 straight minutes.
And he didn't stop.
He didn't stop. We had a hidden camera, so he didn't know. I'm like, no, keep going. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you when to stop. And I just made him go for 35 minutes. He's switching arms. His arm got tired. They brought another guy in because his arm was tired. A relief pepper guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We did like a hidden camera pranks. We did a series for Comedy Central. It was on their broadband channel and the internet channel. And then we had a pilot to do it on the regular channel. It didn't get picked up. They said it was too mean because we were pretty vicious. But we just like mess with. We did shit like that. And we took an upper deck where we shit in the top of the toilet tank.
Wait, is that the most memorable prank? Because that's the one I remember. I guess it would.
I think the pepper one is probably the most memorable one. Yeah, we took upper deckers too.
Is there? I mean, does your kid ask to hear special ed? I mean, obviously that was.
Oh yeah, he's totally upset. There's some show on YouTube all these kids watch where these teenagers with these like Mario puppets, those Mario stuffed animals, and they say dirty shit. And there's one that looks just like special ed. They have like a. And he's like, and I go, special ed did that years ago, but now he's all into the special ed calls. He's obsessed with them.
Can I get 10 seconds of special ed just for my own?
Anyway, he can't understand why, Crank Actors is back on the air after 12 years. So he's like, hopefully special ed will be back. We're hoping. We don't know.
Well, I mean, right here.
Hey, you go, lady. I got mail. I know, because you can still do the voice. I go, yeah, it's a piece. Yeah, it's not. I didn't have to do anything different.
Do you find out guys that do voice work? I feel like I could do voice work and make money. Is that a real? I think, or is that a talent? I know you just did it. And it was great, but is that something? Is that a real talent, or is that something most people could do, and you just have to be in the right lane to get that kind of work?
I really can't do any voices except for that. I just always did that as a kid. Like if a team scored a touchdown, I'd like an ass. Yay, touchdown. Just jump up and down like an idiot. But I don't do any voices. Like I would never be good for, I always said I was never be good for Saturday Night Live. I don't do any characters or voices, So, no, that's a special talent. Like a guy like Craig Dash you brought up before. Guy's phenomenal with voices.
That's true. I love Fred's impression of you. Like he had it down. Oh, I got to go. I tried doing it. Yeah, I can't do it.
We were watching YouTube the other night. There was a clip of me when I was on the show, and Fred was doing me. And he's like, he doesn't sound like you at all. And I'm like, no, he does. He goes, no, that doesn't sound like you. But at the time, I don't know. I mean, I thought it did. And people always thought that, when they would see me do live, like I come to the Funny Bone in St. Louis, they couldn't believe that I wasn't that dirty because everything Fred said was so dirty.
That's right.
And when I did my stand-up's not that dirty. And people are like, I thought you'd be raunchier. I didn't bring my wife because she was going to be disgusted. I go, no. I go, that's just Fred, what he makes up.
You think, was Fred writing that himself on the fly? Was Benji passing?
He was just making it up off the top of his head, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love
an honor. Just that Fred would do your voice. I was like, I can't believe it. I mean, he's only, he does maybe 20 voices in his whole career. I'm like, he did me. I was honored.
Yeah, I guess maybe I should take that back to do it well and have a character. I just listened to a Howie Mandel podcast that he did, and he started doing, was a Bobby's World, and I forgot that he did Gizmo, and he was just talking about how he did it, and he could pull it off right like that, and it was Gizmo, and I guess I'm like, okay, that is a talent, but I'm always thinking, because Justin Long started doing it too, and he sounded just like him. I'm like, maybe everyone could do, but to do it well and over is probably the talent, like Fred. Yeah. So I have you for a couple more minutes. What I like to do at the end of these, I open baseball cards. I have a fan here, right? Let's look at some baseball cards. I got a pack of 1990 Fleer. That's we'll just look at them in 1990.
Oh, nice.
Oh, sorry, 91.
All right. Maybe got a good Jack Clark in there.
All right, we're going to start with
Is there any gum in there?
No gum. These are
gum.
we got. I'm going to show it to the folks at home first. Francisco Cabrera.
He was good.
He had the big hit for the Braves in '92, but not a great card. All right, classic '80s player here. Had some issues. I love Doc Gooden though.
Guy was phenomenal. I got to respect the guy that's too hungover to go to his parade the next day. Doesn't get out of bed.
Well, they're going to do a thing on the 86 Mets. So I'm a Cardinal fan, and somehow the 86 Mets are one of my all-time favorite teams. I'm supposed to hate the Mets. As a kid, they just beat the shit out of everyone. I mean, and they didn't care, and they did curtain calls. They did all this stuff, and they were all on coke, which is even better.
They were a bunch of dicks, Dykstra, Hernandez. They're just a bunch of jerks. I know.
This guy is a former Cardinal, and I consider him a great. We got Tony Pena here.
No, he was solid. He was good. He was a great catcher, man. He could throw from his knees and throw people out.
And he had flair, you know. He sat down with the leg down, but that wasn't even for. Right. You know what's crazy about that? And I remember announcers always saying, "Oh, you know, maybe that's going to be hard for him to throw." What I heard later is he was doing that to get a low enough target for his pitchers. He wanted to be low, and he said the way I get down low is to get down there. It wasn't a flair thing. So I love Tony Pena.
I thought maybe one of his balls was stuck to his leg and he was stretching it out. So
Bob Malacky does nothing for me. I remember him as an O's.
Malacky, didn't he pitch for? I think he pitched for the Mets a little while too. I remember him, Malacky.
I don't know. Well, I remember him that year. Not great. Terry Kennedy. We had this guy just on the last time we had this exact same card. Terry Kennedy, former Cardinal. He was a Giant though. Here, I was hoping to find you some '89 Giants. You know, like Kevin Mitchell. But he was on that '89 team. Backup catcher.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember him too much. I know the name, but I don't remember him being on the Giants.
I'm going to skip through this one. Bill Kruger, just a pitcher guy. This is what happened. You get some bad cards. Did you open baseball cards as a kid? You do this?
Yeah, my kid's all into him. He's 10, so he's into the baseball. We get some old one football and stuff like that. So it's always great opening cards.
Someone said this guy's name just this week on a radio show I was listening to, and they mentioned how great he was in center field, and I forgot. And then I remembered Devon White was the most
the Royals, right?
Yeah, underrated, and he's at this point in the Angels. He played for the Blue Jays too, but this guy he covered a lot of ground and was underrated back then. Devo.
Was he on the Royals too, or no?
Maybe late.
Okay.
I don't know.
The Blue Jays, yeah. Blue Jays, Angels, yeah.
Got a Royal here for you, Mike McFarland. Yeah. Yeah. We're not really good here. Edwin Nunez. Pass. All right, this guy had a great. I don't know if he's got it here. Oh, he's shaved it. I remember this guy pitching for the White Sox. His name is Barry Jones. He used to have a great Fu Manchu, but he had shaved it.
I don't remember Barry Jones.
Yeah, he's shaved it by now. He had a really good Fu Manchu. This is a bad pack here. Mickey Morandini.
Oh yeah, he was good.
He was a Philly little.
Phillies loved him. He was a scrappy player.
Okay, here's a good one.
Isn't this ridiculous that we know all this stuff, like this knowledge? Why? From 1990, where that guy, he put his leg out like that. Like, we don't know most things that we should know. We don't know, but we know about Mickey Morandini and Pena putting his leg out, stretching it.
As a 12-year-old, this is a God honest truth. There was less teams, but if I was at the ball game and I saw that it said 26 KC versus 54 New York Yankees, I knew that Steve Farr was pitching for the Kansas City Royals and Brian Fisher was pitching for the Yankees. I knew every number of every pitcher in Major League Baseball. Wow. That's the only thing I ever learned at 12 years old. Right, it seems bad. This guy I did get to interview. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. In 1996, he was the MVP, and then he passed away. I can't remember if it was a suicide or something bad, but he passed away young.
Yeah, I think he overdosed.
And
remember he got caught. He came out and he said he did steroids when was the MVP. He won later in his career, and he said he was all up on steroids the whole time. He was one of those guys that exposed all those guys.
Yeah, and I don't sit here and promote my interview, but I was a kid when I interviewed him, and he was just so mellow. He had a cup of coffee, and I remember thinking, this is the most mellow, chill guy I've ever met in baseball. They're mostly strung, high strung. He was an interesting guy. I only got 2 cards left. I'll only show Ed Whitson as my last one because I love the Padre uniform.
Ed Whitson, yeah.
He was a Yankee.
He went to the Yankees and bombed.
Yeah.
He got a big contract with the Yankees. He couldn't handle the pressure in New York, and they booed him out.
So that's what happens when you open.
All over him.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's what happens when you open baseball cards. Though sometimes you get a good pack. I mean, what did we have? We had Ken Caminiti. We had a few, but nothing. We're not going to be making a lot of money off that pack, so I'll have to keep opening these up, I guess.
What happened with the whole baseball cards because they used to be worth a ton, and then all of a sudden they just dropped and they weren't worth any money? I forgot what happened with how that happened.
So, through 1980, there was only one company, Topps. Then there was 3, Donruss and Fleer. And then by 1988, 89, that was like a huge – this is when I was a kid too. Like the baseball card, it just became – hey, Upper Deck's making baseball cards. Now Topps is making their own. So they oversaturated. And then there's, everyone. And then they made a ton of them. So they weren't as rare. Like that Mickey Mantle 1950. There's like a 1951 Mickey Mantle, I think, is like worth $1 million. And there's probably only 30 of them out there. They only printed that many. So
that's what happened. Okay, because my friend used to collect, and he said they're worth all this, and then one day he's like, they're worth shit now. So I wasn't sure what happened, but I remember I sold my base. I had a girlfriend. I moved down to Florida. I'm 16 years old. I got a girlfriend, and I wanted to see her so bad. I sold my whole baseball card collection to get a flight back from Florida to New Jersey to see her. And it was some guy in a van that I met like an alley. I forget how we met that he wanted to buy my cards. My cards were probably worth $10,000. I sold for $350. I had, Willie Mays. I had McCovey's, early 70s, all these cards from the 60s. My dad had these cards, and I sold them just to go meet this girl.
How was it?
From some shady guy in a van.
Was it worth it?
No, because she broke up. No, it wasn't. Because the day I got up there, I couldn't see it till the next day, right? I couldn't see the night come in, so I went to a party with my friends. He took me to this party. And it was like the spin the bottle party broke out. And I was making out with this girl, and she left a big hickey on my neck. And my girlfriend saw it the next day, and that was it.
Spin the bottle parties. Now, are the kids doing that these days? I don't know. I don't talk to many kids, but you have one. Are they?
I don't think so. They probably get right to it. We at least, got to work for it.
Yeah, they're doing it over the phone. There's all this technology. Well, Jim, I had fun with this again. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Is there anything that we missed? You get the book out there. People can get that. We can hear you on Barstool Sports. The podcast is very funny twice a week. Anything else you wanted to tell people about? And hopefully we'll get you back in St. Louis. Anything else that we need to talk about?
My kid, like I said, my kids in the wrestling, and they never stop. Since the pandemic, they still have the wrestling every Monday and Friday and stuff, and they did start doing no fans. And at first, you're like, that's kind of weird, but you get used to it. Now it's fine. So,
do you get a chance to meet Vince McMahon, being a big celebrity like yourself? Do you get to take him out and meet Roman?
I never met Vince. I would like to meet Vince. I know Chris Jericho because he has a whole heavy metal connection or whatever. So, but no, I don't really know that. I was never really into the wrestling after, once I found out it was fake when I was 14, I was devastated. Meanwhile, it took me to 14 that I finally figured out it was fake. Then I didn't watch for a while. I was mad at wrestling.
I'm a fan. I've been a fan all my life. I do love how annoyed wrestlers get when you call it fake. I mean, it's clearly not fake. It's staged. It's scripted. But these guys are definitely, yes, jumping off the top rope. And when a chair hits them in the back, they're getting hit by the chair. Now, they have techniques to make sure it doesn't hurt as bad, but they're still getting hit. Like when Ric Flair does one of those chops, that you see the welt on the person's chest. That's not, but I do enjoy when somebody will, like Bill Maher, I remember politically incorrect, and he had Roddy Piper on, and Piper looked like he was going to deck him because, Bill Maher has got that smart assy. It's fake. Roddy got up.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a wrestler, I wouldn't want people saying my profession is fake either. I like that new wrestling league at AEW.
Yeah,
I'm digging that.
Well, and you got, it's not Vince McMahonized, and you got Jericho kind of leading it, and you got Jim Ross, like kind of these life wrestling guys. It does bring like fresh air to it. It is interesting to see. It's good to have competition. I don't know if you remember back when there was the big Monday Night War. You would flip back and forth to say, okay, what's Hulk doing? All right, what's The Rock doing? All right, let's move over here and see what. So I feel like it needs it because it's very stale with only one company having all the talent, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the AEW, like right off the bat, they're, as soon as they go on the air, they're fighting. I noticed with the WWE, it's 20 minutes of somebody talking in a ring, then go to commercial, another 7 minutes of another guy talking. I'm like, just get to some action.
Who's your son's favorite pro grappler these days?
Randy Orton.
St. Louis's own, from Hazelwood, yes.
Is he from St. Louis?
Yeah, he went to Hazelwood High School here in St. Louis. Yeah, I think he still lives here. I think maybe in part-time, but I know he's always kind of around.
Yeah, I trained him like the bad guys. He's a great bad guy, Randy Orton. It's great.
He can't be a good guy. He's just has the...
No, there's no way. He doesn't have the charisma for a good guy.
Yeah, when he does it, it doesn't work. I mean, even, like Stone Cold was a bad guy who people loved and became, a good guy, still trying to do bad guy things. But Randy Orton it doesn't work. I agree. I enjoy his work, I have to say.
Yeah, Orton's great. I like him too. So.
All right. Well, I thank Jim Florentine for joining me, and here's the pitch. And again, Masses Restaurants in St. Louis, 5 locations. STLmasses.com is their website. That's going to do it for this one. I, again, thank Jim Florentine for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time.